Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of you, and peace out to the rest of you. Black heart, black mind, black in again. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Let me go ahead and just point this out pretty quickly. I don't want this to be long. Crafty Dollar had some slick stuff to say about Kevin Samuels, and he didn't curse the man, but he called the man a sign of the end of times, and the fact that people will call in to be insulted by this man, a sign of the end of times. Listen, Crafty Dollar, Reverend Brother Pastor Deacon Dr. Dollar, I don't care what Bible verses you can quote. We Muslims already know you're not receiving prophecy anyway. And this is not something that just I'm saying, but all Muslims that are practicing Muslims know you are not receiving prophecy. You may be hearing something. You may have visions, you may not, but you are not receiving prophecy and revelation from God. And don't say, well, maybe not God the Father, because frankly, God is not a father or son, and he is not just a Holy Spirit. God is God. Allah is literally translated the deity. We also say the King, Al-Malik. That's one of his names. He's the King. He is the healer. He is the redeemer. He's the most forgiving. He's also the punisher. Several names and titles and attributes. Now, we would agree about these things, but also keep this in mind. If there's a sign of the end of times that is related to Kevin Samuels, it would be that now the information at people's fingertips is such that men can now begin to compare notes across the world and across language barriers. Find out the games that women have played and realize and actually understand women, sir. It is no longer one of those mysteries that we look at and say we'll never solve. No, we got it. We figured it out. They may not hate men most of the time, but if they get a lot of freedoms like what they have in the West, they'll wind up hating men and they'll do the absolute worst to men they can possibly do and get away with. Beating men, lying on men, falsely accusing men, taking their money, and even intentionally using men they don't want for the resources to raise the kids of the men they want. And even using the resources of the men they don't want to take care of the men they want. So in other words, they would take everything from many men in order to give everything to the few men they want. That's what they don't want us to understand. Some would say that's their nature. I don't care if it's nature or nurture. If they can do it, they will. And I already know that saved and sanctified women in your church or Muslim women, modest and practicing in our community, will do the same thing if you let them. If the men that women don't want in the Muslim community stepped up and said, well, you don't want us, so pick the guys you do want and the rest of us will work and support y'all, they would take it. Really? Okay. That's what they would do. And I'm going to tell you now straight away, Reverend Brother Pastor Deacon Dr. Dollar, we men ain't having that no more. Neither is Mr. Samuels. And that's the absolute worst thing that has happened. The ability to understand them and what we can understand are the signs of the end of time. I don't think you get it though, see? Because there's something else, and I want the audience to understand this. Years ago in Atlanta, I met a Muslima who had left Islam before and then come back. But while she was out of Islam, she had actually become Christian, and somehow she had married into the Dollar family. So she knows. She knows the workings, the failures and the successes of the Dollar family. And this lady is now a Muslim, and she's brought her son back into it. But this lady, I kid you not, sat up and told us about the inner workings of the Dollar family. And she said they're quite materialistic and ostentatious. That they are very focused on money, and that she really can't believe that their last name is actually Dollar and it's been that way for generations. She said they didn't change their name. That's actually his last name, his parents' last name, his grandparents' last name. And she said it's very fitting and appropriate. But she also said that his first name, in another dialect of English spoken in West Africa, actually means an easy, quick flow of something. Ironic. She also said, though, that they have houses. I mean, they have rooms in the house they never use, but furniture, expensive furniture, is in every single room, even though they don't use many of them, just for show, just cause. She also said that there was a time when she decided she got sick of the prophesying because every year, New Year's Eve service, somebody got up in the pulpit and said, this is your year, your son's coming home from jail, you're going to find that husband, you know, that type stuff. And she said every year, the same people were there. In between the two New Year's Eve services, the same people were there with the same problems. The prophecies of deliverance never came true. And so she decided to run the test. She put an IOU in one time when the collection plate was passed around. Now, mind you, this is apparently different from the tithes that the members have to pay. And someone made a reference to it. She said it was either the wife or the mother of Reverend Brother Pastor Deacon Dr. Creflo Dollar. They got up and said, somebody been putting IOUs in here. And I'm going to find you. Keep it up. And I'm going to find you. I'm going to ask the spirit, and he's going to tell me who it is. And I'm going to expose you if you don't stop it. So she decided she was going to keep on doing it. And she said eventually, because see, when she was telling the story to my wife at that time and to me and to another friend, of course, I was the one actually that said, so did the spirit tell her anything? And she said, not really asking if the spirit told her, but did she think she learned something from the spirit? And so this lady, this Muslima that had been a Christian for a while, looked at me and said, Black, she got up and called out the wrong person. And not only that, she called out the wrong person. And the person said, I didn't do an IOU. I just didn't put the money in it that day because I didn't have it. I put the money in later. How come the spirit ain't tell you that? Something to that effect. But the point was that what she thought was the spirit gave her the wrong answer. And it turned out that random person she mistook, misidentified, falsely accused, had actually not put some money in a collection plate that they were expected to put in and was supposed to put in. And mind you, as I said, this is different from the tithes. Oh my goodness. That's the prophecy that descends upon that church. And I say prophecy with sarcasm. We Muslims already know they're not getting prophecy because we don't get prophecy. Nobody's getting prophecy anymore except a small part of revelation may come to others in the form of dreams, a part. But no full-on prophecy. Doesn't happen like that. So we're going to have to accept and admit that there ain't no prophecy, and we know this. I mean, the Muslim understands this. However, we also have to understand and accept that in the end, this is not a sign of the end of times. Mr. Samuels is not that sign. However, the wool being pulled off of our eyes by him and others who have been doing this long before him, to their credit. The wool being pulled off is probably a sign of the end of times, but more so that was underneath the wool is definitely a sign of the beginning of time. This enmity that they've had for us. Just wanting to make things difficult just because. And not only that, but they've conditioned men such that when men become fathers, they will turn around and contribute and maintain that cycle. Even when the daughter herself doesn't want it. That being said, I think you've gotten enough from me. I think you understand now. Thank you for listening. Black heart, black mind, black out, assalamu alaikum, and black heterosexual non-select male power, just because they don't like it, and black patriarchy until extinction or judgment day.